The rain pounded relentlessly against the pavement of Lower Manhattan. As I stood there completely drenched and disoriented, my heart hammering in my chest. My backpack with all my cash, my phone, and the last of my savings had been ripped from my shoulder by some shadowy figure just 10 minutes earlier, leaving me with nothing but the soaked clothes on my back and a job interview address I could no longer reach. When a tall, elegant woman in a tailored black suit stepped out from a nearby office building and approached me with concerned eyes, I had no idea this stranger named Kennedy would become the center of my entire world. "You look like you have had a hell of a night," she said, her voice calm and authoritative yet warm. "I'm Kennedy, an attorney with an office right here. Let's get you inside and figure this out." I hesitated, but the cold was biting through me and desperation won. Following her into the sleek modern lobby of the building, I felt a strange pull toward her confidence and kindness, something I had rarely experienced back home in Ohio. Inside her office, she quickly arranged for a police report, handing me a towel and hot coffee from her assistant. As I gave my statement, Riley Ellis, 25, from a small town in Ohio, just arrived today for a fresh start after things got too heavy at home. I could see her taking notes with professional focus, but her eyes held a warmth that made me feel seen for the first time in years. She listened without judgment as I explained how I had saved up for months to move to the city, hoping to find work in graphic design and escape the constant arguments with my parents, who never understood why I did not fit their idea of normal. After the report, she insisted on helping further. "Look, the shelters are overwhelmed tonight and you have no money or ID right now. My apartment is not far in Brooklyn and my wife Clarissa is away on a business trip for the next couple of weeks. You can stay in the guest room until you sort things out. It is not charity, Riley, it is practical." I nodded, numbly grateful beyond words. The drive across the bridge was quiet, but her presence was reassuring. Her apartment was stunning, a spacious loft with exposed brick walls, high ceilings, and sweeping views of the Manhattan skyline sparkling through floor-to-ceiling windows. She showed me the guest room stocked with clean linens and even offered some of her clothes since mine were ruined. As I showered, the hot water washed away the grime but not the confusion swirling in my mind. Why did her smile make my stomach flip in a way that felt both terrifying and alive? Back home in Ohio, I had always pushed down those feelings, buried them under layers of denial and family expectations. My parents had made it clear that any deviation from their straight, narrow path would mean losing everything. Now here I was in this stranger's home, feeling a spark I could not name. Kennedy ordered takeout and we ate at the kitchen island, talking lightly about the city, her work as a corporate lawyer handling high-stakes cases, and my dreams of building a portfolio. She asked thoughtful questions, never prying too deep, and when I mentioned my strained family ties, she simply said everyone deserves a chance to rewrite their story. That night, lying in the soft bed, I stared at the ceiling, replaying every moment of her kindness. The way her hand had brushed mine when handing me the towel, the steady tone of her voice that made me believe things could get better. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to wonder what it would feel like to not hide. But doubt crept in fast. She was married, successful, and clearly straight, or at least in a committed relationship with Clarissa, whoever she was. I was a mess, a 25-year-old runaway with nothing to offer. Still, sleep came eventually, exhausted from the ordeal. The next morning, Kennedy left early for court, but left a note with keys, a prepaid phone, and instructions to make myself at home. I wandered the apartment, taking in the details, the modern art on the walls, the well-stocked bookshelves filled with legal thrillers and biographies. In the living room, I paused at a small side table, noticing a framed photo, but did not look closely, yet too overwhelmed to focus. I spent the day applying for jobs online using the phone she provided, and trying to replace my lost documents. Every step forward felt like a small victory, but the weight of my situation pressed down. By evening, Kennedy returned, looking tired but smiling when she saw me. "How are you holding up?" she asked, setting down her briefcase. "Better, thanks to you," I replied honestly. We cooked dinner together, simple pasta and salad, and the conversation flowed easier. She shared how she had moved to New York after law school, fighting her own battles to establish her career in a male-dominated field. Her strength inspired me, and for a moment I forgot my troubles. As we cleared the table, our hands brushed again, and I felt that same electric pull. I pulled away quickly, embarrassed, but she did not seem to notice. Later, alone in my room, I whispered to myself, "This is just gratitude, Riley, do not read into it." But deep down I knew the seed had been planted, and the coming days would test everything I thought I knew about myself. The city outside hummed with life while inside my heart began to stir with possibilities and fears I could no longer ignore. The days blurred into a careful routine in Kennedy's apartment. Each morning she left for her firm in Midtown, and I focused on rebuilding my life piece by piece. I landed a few freelance graphic design gigs through online platforms, enough to start paying for small things and give me hope. Kennedy checked in every evening asking about my progress and offering advice on navigating the city. Her presence became a constant comfort, a steady anchor in the chaos I had escaped from Ohio. One evening after a long day, she suggested we watch a movie to unwind. We settled on the couch with popcorn and a documentary about women breaking barriers in law. Her laugh was genuine and warm, and I found myself stealing glances at her profile, the sharp line of her jaw, the way her eyes lit up during inspiring scenes. "Tell me more about your family," she said during a quiet moment, pausing the screen. I hesitated, but something in her gaze made me open up. "My parents run a small church in our town. They have always had strict views on how life should be lived. When I started questioning things, pushing back against the expectations, they saw it as rebellion. The last fight was bad enough that I packed a bag and bought a one-way ticket here. I left out the deeper reasons, the nights I cried wondering why I never felt the way other girls talked about boys, the secret crushes on female teachers I buried deep." Kennedy nodded, understanding in her eyes. "Families can be the hardest battleground," she said softly. "I know something about that. My own parents struggled when I chose my path, but they came around eventually." Her words lingered as we finished the movie. When it ended, she stretched and stood, heading to the kitchen for water. I followed to help, and in the dim light our shoulders touched. The air felt charged and I stepped back quickly, heart racing. "Sorry," I mumbled. "No need," she replied with a gentle smile. "You are safe here, Riley." That night I lay awake replaying the conversation. Safe. The word wrapped around me like a blanket, but also highlighted the growing conflict inside. I was falling for her kindness, her intelligence, her quiet strength, and it terrified me because she was married. The next day, while Kennedy was at work, I explored the apartment more fully, looking for ways to contribute, maybe clean or organize. In the living room, my eyes fell on the side table again, and this time I picked up the framed photo. It showed two women in elegant white wedding dresses standing under a floral arch, their foreheads touching in a tender kiss. One was clearly Kennedy, her dark hair styled perfectly, her smile radiant. The other woman, blonde and graceful with sparkling eyes, must be Clarissa. Two brides. The realization hit like a wave. Kennedy was married to a woman. My breath caught and heat rushed to my face. I set the photo down, hands trembling. This changed everything and nothing. It confirmed she was like me, or at least open to it, but she was taken, committed in a beautiful union. The moral weight crushed me. What right did I have to feel this way, invading their home, developing feelings for a married woman? Yet the image stayed burned in my mind, the joy on their faces, the undeniable love. Back home, such a photo would have been hidden or condemned. Here it stood proudly on the table, a testament to a life I had only dreamed of. When Kennedy returned that evening, she noticed my distraction. "Everything okay?" she asked, pouring us wine. I nodded, forcing a smile. "Just thinking about how much has changed in a week." She studied me for a moment, then shared more about her life. "Clarissa and I have been together 5 years, married for 3. Her job keeps her traveling a lot lately. It is not always easy, but we make it work." Her words both relieved and pained me. They were solid, yet she mentioned the strains, the long separations. I pushed down the hope that flickered and focused on gratitude. Over the next days our bond deepened through shared meals, late night talks about dreams and fears. She helped me prepare for interviews, reviewing my resume with lawyer precision. One afternoon she took me to a small gallery in Brooklyn, introducing me to contacts who might hire for design work. Walking beside her through the streets, I felt alive, proud even. But every laugh, every shared look carried the undercurrent of my secret. Family pressure mounted too when I finally charged the new phone and called my mother. "Riley, where are you?" she demanded, voice tight with worry and anger. "In New York," I said, trying to sound strong. "I need space, Mom." "Space?" she scoffed. "From what? Your faith, your family. Come home before you make a mistake you cannot undo." The call ended in tears and I sat on the couch replaying her words. Kennedy found me there, and without asking sat beside me, offering silent support. Her arm around my shoulders felt like home and danger all at once. I leaned into it briefly, then pulled away, whispering thanks. That night alone I confronted the truth in the mirror. I was in love with Kennedy or falling hard, and the photo of her and Clarissa was both beautiful proof of possibility and a painful reminder of the line I could not cross. The internal battle raged: family expectations versus my awakening heart, social norms versus the authenticity I craved. Each decision to stay, each moment of connection, carried a price: the guilt, the fear of betrayal. Yet I could not leave, not yet. The city and Kennedy had opened a door, and I was stepping through even as the ground trembled beneath me. Weeks turned into a fragile new normal. I secured a part-time position at a small design firm in Soho thanks to one of Kennedy's connections. The work was entry-level, but it gave me purpose and a paycheck. Mornings I left the apartment with her, sharing the subway ride uptown, our conversations light but meaningful. She would tease me about my Ohio accent, and I would counter with questions about her biggest court wins. The attraction I felt grew quieter in the routine but never faded. It simmered in the way her hand steadied me on crowded trains, or how she remembered my coffee order exactly. One evening after work, she suggested we cook together, experimenting with a new recipe. The kitchen filled with laughter and the aroma of garlic and herbs. As we chopped vegetables, our fingers brushed, and I froze, the spark undeniable. Kennedy looked up, her eyes meeting mine, and for a second the world narrowed to just us. Then the moment passed and she turned back to the stove. Dinner was delicious, and we talked about her latest case, a discrimination suit against a major company. Her passion for justice ignited something in me. "You fight for people who cannot fight for themselves," I said admiringly. "That is what I want too, in my own way, through art that tells stories." She smiled and reached across the table, squeezing my hand briefly. "You will find your way, Riley." Her touch lingered in my mind long after. The next day, while Kennedy was in court, I worked from the apartment on a deadline project. Curiosity got the better of me, and I found myself back at the side table with the wedding photo. Tracing the frame, I studied their faces, the pure happiness, the way Clarissa looked at Kennedy with adoration. Jealousy twisted in my gut, followed by shame. How could I envy a marriage I had no claim to? This was their life, their love. I was the guest, the stray she had taken in. Yet the photo also sparked a deeper awakening. Seeing two women so openly in love validated the feelings I had suppressed for years. In Ohio, such images were whispered about with disgust. Here it was normal, celebrated even. My phone rang, interrupting the thoughts. It was my father this time. "Your mother told me you are in that godless city," he boomed. "Come home, Riley. We can fix this, whatever confusion you are going through. The church has programs." His words cut deep, reinforcing the prejudice I had fled. I hung up shaking, and when Kennedy came home, she sensed the shift immediately. "Bad call?" she asked, setting her bag down. I nodded, pouring out the conversation. She listened, then shared her own story. "When I came out, my family was split. Some accepted, others still struggle. But I chose to live truthfully, and it cost me relationships but gained me freedom." Her vulnerability opened the floodgates, and I confessed fragments of my own confusion about who I was. Not everything, but enough to feel lighter. She did not push, just offered understanding. The days continued, with her helping me navigate the legal paperwork for my new job ID replacement, everything. One weekend she took me to Central Park, and we walked the paths, talking about everything and nothing. The leaves were turning and the air crisp. At one point we sat on a bench, and she told me about meeting Clarissa in law school, how their friendship turned to love. It sounded perfect, yet she admitted the recent distance, the arguments over careers. I wanted to say something to comfort her, but the words stuck. Guilt gnawed at me for wanting more, for hoping the strain meant something. That night back at the apartment, the tension peaked. We watched news, and when a story about LGBTQ rights came on, she turned to me. "You deserve to live without fear, Riley." Her words hit hard and tears welled up. She pulled me into a hug, and in that embrace, I felt the line blur. My head on her shoulder, her scent surrounding me, I knew I was lost. Pulling back, I whispered, "I do not know what I am doing." She cupped my face gently, her thumb brushing a tear. "You are figuring it out, and that is brave." The air thickened with unspoken words, but she stepped away first, clearing her throat. "We should get some rest." Alone in my room, I paced the conflict tearing me apart. Loving her felt right, yet every second carried the weight of potential destruction. Family pressure intensified, with daily texts demanding my return, painting the city as a trap. Social prejudice loomed too. At my new job, a coworker made a snide comment about alternative lifestyles after seeing my Pride keychain, and I froze, wondering if I belonged anywhere. Kennedy noticed my withdrawal and confronted it gently over breakfast. Whatever is bothering you, you can tell me. I almost did the full truth, but held back, fearing the fallout. Instead, I said, I am just overwhelmed by how much I owe you. You owe me nothing, she replied, her eyes searching mine. The price I was paying was internal, the slow erosion of my morals, the growing need to choose between silence and honesty. As the weeks passed, the bond strengthened through small acts, her defending me in a minor dispute with a landlord, my surprising her with a designed thank you card. But the photo on the table became my silent tormentor, a beautiful reminder of what I could not have and the life I yearned for. The internal storm built with each decision to stay, each moment of closeness. I was trading safety for truth, and the cost was mounting in sleepless nights and hidden tears. Kennedy remained my savior and my greatest temptation, the woman who had rescued me from the streets, now pulling me toward a precipice of love and consequence. The turning point came on a rainy Thursday evening. I had finished a big project at work, and Kennedy surprised me with tickets to a small theater show in the village. We dressed up, she in a sleek dress that accentuated her presence, me in borrowed clothes that felt elegant for the first time. The performance was powerful, a story of forbidden love and self-discovery that mirrored my turmoil too closely. During the intermission, we stepped outside for air, and she asked what I thought. It is hitting close to home, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. She turned to me, the streetlights reflecting in her eyes. How so? I could not hold it back anymore. The feelings, the way you make me feel seen and alive. Kennedy, I think I am falling for you. The words hung between us, raw and irreversible. Her expression shifted from surprise to something deeper, conflict and longing. Riley, she began, but I interrupted. I know about Clarissa, the photo, I saw it. I know this is wrong, but I cannot stop it. She took my hands, her grip firm. Clarissa and I have been struggling for months. The travel, the arguments, we are in counseling, but it is complicated. I never expected this either. The admission opened a door, and in the following days we navigated the new territory carefully. Conversations turned intimate, sharing fears and hopes. One night, after a particularly tough family call, where my mother accused me of abandoning God, I broke down. Kennedy held me as I cried. And then our lips met in a tender kiss born of comfort and desire. It was soft, full of unspoken promises. And for a moment the world felt right. But guilt crashed in immediately. We pulled apart, both breathing heavily. This is not fair to Clarissa, I said, tears flowing. Kennedy nodded, her face pained. I know. We cannot continue like this without honesty. The next week brought confrontation. Clarissa returned from her trip early, her arrival announced by the sound of keys in the door. I froze in the living room as she entered, suitcase in hand. She was beautiful, poised with an energy that filled the space. Kennedy greeted her with a hug, but the tension was immediate. This is Riley, she explained. The woman I told you about, the one who was mugged. Clarissa eyed me, assessing. Nice to meet you. Thanks for letting me stay, I said awkwardly. The evening was polite on the surface, but undercurrents ran deep. Clarissa asked questions about my life, her tone neutral, but eyes sharp. Later I overheard them arguing in the bedroom. How close have you two gotten, she demanded. Kennedy defended me, but the words stung. I am just helping her. The moral dilemma intensified. I was the intruder, the catalyst in their strain. Family pressure escalated when my parents learned of my living situation through a mutual friend. My father called, raging. Living with lesbians, Riley, what are you thinking? Come home now, or do not come back. The rejection cut deep, reinforcing the prejudice I had always feared. I packed a bag ready to leave, but Kennedy stopped me. Do not let them define you. We talked through the night, Clarissa joining at one point, surprisingly understanding. I see the way you look at each other, she said quietly. But this marriage is not over yet. The betrayal I felt toward her was mirrored in my self-loathing. Trade-offs loomed, Kennedy risking her stability for these moments, me sacrificing family ties for authenticity. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions. Kennedy and I stole quiet moments, but each one carried the price of secrecy. At work, a colleague hinted at rumors about my closeness to a known lesbian lawyer, spreading prejudice that affected my assignments. I confronted the mirror one morning. You are hurting people, Riley. The awakening was painful yet liberating. Choosing to feel was costing me safety, but denying it had cost me years of emptiness. Clarissa and Kennedy had a long talk and decided on a trial separation, Clarissa moving to a hotel temporarily. The relief mixed with sorrow. Kennedy chose to explore her feelings, but the decision weighed on her career and reputation. I supported her through it all, my love deepening with every sacrifice. Yet the internal conflict raged. Was this love worth the pain inflicted? The story unfolded with increasing stakes, each choice a step toward truth or regret. Social judgment followed us in subtle ways, stares at restaurants, whispers at events. But in private the connection grew stronger, tender talks, and shared dreams building a foundation. The price was high: family estrangement, professional risks, emotional turmoil. But the reward was a version of myself I recognized. As tension mounted, I knew bigger confrontations awaited, the true test of our decisions, and the hearts we might break along the way. The separation between Kennedy and Clarissa became public knowledge within their circle, and the fallout was swift. Rumors swirled at Kennedy's firm, colleagues questioning her focus on a high-profile case involving corporate ethics. One partner pulled her aside, suggesting the personal drama could affect client perceptions. Prejudice against her lifestyle, which had been tolerated when hidden, now surfaced openly. I watched her navigate it with grace, but the strain showed in her tired eyes. Meanwhile, my own family cut all contact, sending a final message through my sister. "We love you but cannot support this sin." The words echoed the social condemnation I had feared my entire life. I threw myself into work, but the isolation gnawed at me. Clarissa returned one evening to collect belongings, her face set in determination. "We need to talk, all three of us," she said. The living room became a battlefield of emotions. She confronted me directly. "You came into our home lost and broken, and now this." "I never meant to hurt anyone," I replied, voice breaking. "But the feelings are real." Kennedy stood between us, torn. "Clarissa, I care about you, but Riley has shown me parts of myself I ignored." The argument escalated, accusations of betrayal flying. Clarissa revealed her own doubts about the marriage long before my arrival, the emotional distance that had grown. Yet my presence had accelerated the end. I felt the weight of being the catalyst, the one forcing choices. Trade-offs became concrete: Kennedy losing a potential promotion due to office gossip, me facing eviction threats from a landlord influenced by biased reports. In the midst of it, a crisis hit. Kennedy's firm faced a leak of sensitive documents and fingers pointed at her team. A colleague who had always resented her success spread lies tying the leak to her personal life, suggesting distraction. The betrayal stung deep. Kennedy fought back in meetings, presenting evidence, but the damage was done. I supported her through late nights, researching, helping organize files. Our moments together were now laced with urgency. One night, after a particularly grueling day, we sat on the couch, and she said, "I do not regret this, Riley, but the cost is higher than I imagined." I held her, understanding the sacrifices, her career stability, her social standing, all on the line for our connection. My own awakening intensified. No longer hiding, I attended a support group for young LGBTQ individuals, sharing my story for the first time. The acceptance there contrasted sharply with family rejection. Confrontations peaked when Clarissa filed for formal separation, and my parents showed up unannounced at the apartment building, demanding I leave with them. The scene in the lobby was humiliating, my father shouting about moral corruption, Kennedy stepping in calmly, but firmly escorting them out. The police were called for disturbance, and the incident made local news, tying back to her professional life. The price was paid in public humiliation, lost opportunities, and fractured relationships. Yet through it all, our love solidified. We made decisions together to face the consequences head-on. I moved into a small studio nearby to give space, but we saw each other daily. The drama tested our bond with arguments over timing and guilt, but also moments of profound connection where we affirmed the truth of our feelings. Social prejudice followed in subtle exclusions from events, wary glances, but we stood together. The internal struggles continued for me, questioning if my choices had been selfish, inflicting pain on Clarissa and my family. Kennedy wrestled with guilt over the marriage, but found clarity in therapy. The betrayal from her colleague led to an internal investigation that ultimately cleared her, but left scars. Each character paid dearly: Clarissa losing the stability of marriage, my family losing a daughter, Kennedy risking her livelihood. Yet the awakening brought strength. I designed a personal project, a series of artworks depicting journeys of self-acceptance, and it gained traction online. The narrative built to its highest tension as we prepared for a court hearing on the separation, and Kennedy defended her reputation in a firm meeting. The choices were made with eyes open, the consequences accepted. Love had demanded everything, and we were still standing though battered. The psychological depth of the conflicts, the family pressures, and societal judgments shaped us, forging resilience from the ruins. The courtroom for Clarissa's separation hearing was sterile, and echoing a stark contrast to the emotional storm inside. Kennedy sat composed in her professional suit, but her hand found mine under the table for a brief squeeze before we entered. Clarissa was there with her lawyer eyes avoiding ours, but the pain evident. As proceedings unfolded, details of their marriage strains, and my role emerged, carefully worded, but the subtext clear. I testified briefly about my arrival, and the unintended impact, admitting my feelings while emphasizing no coercion. The judge granted the separation with mediation for assets, and the air felt heavier with finality. Outside, Clarissa approached us alone. "I do not hate you, Riley," she said quietly, "but this hurt. Take care of her." Her words were a release and a wound. Kennedy and I walked away hand in hand, the price of our love now fully realized in the broken pieces left behind. My family remained distant, but a letter arrived weeks later from my mother. "We are praying for you. The door is not closed forever." It was not acceptance, but a crack of hope amid the prejudice. At Kennedy's firm, the investigation concluded with her cleared and a promotion offered as apology for the bias. She accepted, but on her terms, demanding diversity training. The social judgments lingered in whispers, but her success silenced many. For me, the graphic design career blossomed with commissions inspired by my journey. We moved in together, slowly building a life in a new neighborhood free from the apartment memories. Yet the scars remained. Nights of doubt where I questioned the path, the confrontations that replayed in dreams, the betrayals that taught hard lessons. Kennedy shared similar reflections, the trade-off of stability for authenticity, the moral complexities of choosing self over past commitments. Our love deepened through therapy joint sessions where we unpacked the trauma and celebrated the awakening. Small joys emerged, shared mornings, city explorations, creative collaborations. But the story demanded reflection on the costs. Friends distanced themselves, family ties frayed, careers tested. Each decision, from the first rescue to the final choice, carried weight, the internal battles fought daily. One evening on our balcony overlooking the skyline, Kennedy turned to me. "We paid a high price, but I would do it again for us." I agreed, the truth resonating. The narrative closed with growth, Riley no longer the lost girl, but a woman embracing her identity, Kennedy stronger in her convictions, Clarissa finding her own path forward. The drama had transformed us all through pain to clarity.